Welcome to Load the Box. We're back, and dare I say, better than ever. Stealing that line from Mike and Mike in the morning on ESPN Radio. R.I.P.
Heck yeah.
Weird day. We were getting all jazzed up, gassed up to come on the show tonight and talk about training camp battles and dig into positions and analytics and numbers and scheme and all that jazz. And then a couple hours ago, Kwesi pulled a fast one and locked up Christian Darrisaw for $1 million more than Penei Sewell got. And he also re-signed Duke Shelley. So, we're taking a pivot. Jordan, you want to talk about the super rich guy, or do you want to talk about the super short guy?
Oh, man. We have to talk about Darrisaw first. We have to lead with Darrisaw. He's the more important signing. But this is the best day of my life. Me and my wife had a really good Saturday. There was a hike. There was a fireworks show. We got to see family. It was a beautiful Saturday. But this trumps it. Duke Shelley's back. This is the greatest. I mean, go back. It's pointless, and I get no one watches old sports content because why would you? But go back and watch the shows after Duke Shelley left. It was the biggest heartbreak of my life. It made no sense to me then. This makes all the sense in the world to me now. I'm so excited about this. But we have to start with Darrisaw. Like you said, becoming the highest paid left tackle in the NFL. I think it's a really good move by Kwesi, by the Wilfs, by all parties that were involved. Darrisaw, who has had some injury troubles, not like long-term, lacerated kidneys, missing entire seasons, but just not able to put 16, 17 consecutive in as of the last couple years, it seems. So good move by him saying, let's get the money now. Let's not wait until the contract's up. Let's not go into a holdout situation. Let's just be the highest paid left tackle right now today. I'm sure somebody else will beat it. I don't know the left tackle market intimately. I'm not that guy, but someone's going to trump it at some point. That's the way that this thing works. I think, and for the Vikings, yeah, you have the money now. You got rid of Kirk Cousins. You pay guys that are good at football to play football for the Minnesota Vikings. Like it's just that simple. It's a simple strategy, and Darrisaw's one of the best when healthy. Hopefully he can put together a full 17 games. We won't have to dip into any tackle depth, throughout the course of the season, and he'll be able to protect J.J. McCarthy for years to come. I'm very excited about it.
It's huge, and it's also, like you said, sort of obvious. This is what you do. You have the money and you pay the people that you need to pay, especially now that you have, hopefully, and we've talked about this ad nauseum since April, your quarterback of the future. And he's not played a snap yet, so he could be a lemon, and so who knows. But regardless, got cap space, and you've got a guy that has been fantastic. The sad reality is, he's played 3 seasons. He has only played 41 games in those seasons, so it's not a ton of missed games, but let me just do the quick math here. It's about was that injury?
Hang on, Will. Repeat yourself. We're having some cutting in and outs here. It looks like you're trying to stay. It looks like you're stabilized. So go ahead, repeat that really quick. You said he played 41 of 40 however games.
He has played 41 games of the possible 51 in his career, and I couldn't remember if his rookie year, if he had injury issues, or if it was just a late bloomer thing.
I can't remember either. I feel like he played his entire rookie season, and then he missed like 2-3 games every year since then.
Yeah, so either way, you're taking some level of risk here. He's missed 20% of the games that he's been eligible to play. He didn't play in the playoff game. No, he did play in the playoff game. It was Brian O'Neill who didn't play.
Yes.
So he's been around, but he has been banged up. And I mean, such is the life of an offensive lineman, frankly. I mean, are you going to get a guy who starts 17 games a year at any position on the offensive line? Unlikely. So it's I think it's a a low risk gamble in that regard. He's been fantastic when he's been on the field. He's been compared to Trent Williams at times, and I think there's just still tons of upside for this guy. He appears to be getting better every year. And when you build a football team, you like to build from the ball out, right? So I don't think we'd all sit here and say that Garrett Bradbury is the center of forever, but he's a pretty good center. We'll talk about more of the offensive line later. Now you've got the bookend tackles secured. And so all that said, you start with the offensive line. It still needs to improve in some regards, but you've got your tackles secured. That's a really good place to start. If you can't protect the quarterback, it doesn't matter who's back there. So definitely a good move by Kwesi. Yeah. You got the money. You spent it on the right person.
I think the Vikings now, you're talking about having the bookend tackles, and I don't want to make this a Brian O'Neill show, or even a Brian O'Neill segment of the show, but when you're talking about the offensive line, it is such a, you can have one superstar. That does not mean the entire line is now fixed. You do have to have 5 guys who can communicate well, understand, kind of be in each other's heads almost, understand what the other guy's going to do so they can pick up blitzes correctly, do that kind of stuff. And getting back to the bookend tackle discussion, I think the Vikings, I don't think it's outrageous to say they probably have like a top 5 tackle duo in the league with O'Neill and Darrisaw.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Darrisaw is, he's been kind of a monster ever since he started his rookie year, and O'Neill came in his rookie year. He didn't give up a sack for I want to say it was 17 games or something. He played most of his rookie year without giving one up, and then I don't think he gave one up until 2 or 3 games into his sophomore season. So just very good guys, very good in the type of scheme that the Vikings want to run in terms of running the ball, good in pass protection, agile, just all around. I love it. I love what they're doing with the O-line, and I don't know that we'll get to the offensive line, the interior offensive line tonight, but we have about a month and a half-ish to talk about any positions we want now that training camp is starting, and so I'm sure that will be a hot topic to discuss. It was going to be on the docket for tonight, but got scooched down because the Vikings made 2 signings. And getting into that second signing, the Duke of Shelley is back. Duke Shelley, who famously, got that big interception in a pretty meaningless game against Chicago, with Donatel's really terrible defense. He was like the lone bright spot of the Donna Shell defense. He's coming in now, completely different ideology on the defensive side of the ball. He used to be don't let them get behind you, everything stays in front, we're going to let them just go right down the field on us with no resistance. Now the Vikings are this nasty blitz all the time, super aggressive. If one corner gets beat, the whole game can be changed in that moment. Duke Shelley, I'm gonna wait to give my opinions. We know what my opinion is. I love the signing. He's gonna be a superstar. Will, do you think he's going to play? Do you think he's gonna be more than a rotational guy? Do you think and this is we'll talk about camp battles later. Do you think he has a shot to be a stouting defensive back when the Vikings go into the nickel?
Yes.
Yeah, so do I.
And I don't think it's that crazy to say that, because we've talked about Duke Shelley more than any player on a minimum contract should ever be talked about. But I think what we saw in him in that 2022 season was a capital DAWG, and he fit what we thought Brian Flores' defense was going to be, which is, heavy man coverage and pressure and all that. last season the Vikings cornerback situation didn't allow them to play as much man coverage as you'd like. But I think now you bring back a guy like Duke Shelley who seems to fit that mold better. You have Mekhi Blackman who started to show some improvement as the year went on. And then of course you have Aaron Murphy. And you've got cornerbacks now who you would like to think could give you more of a shot in man coverage, especially if the pass rush is improved, which I think we all think it should be improved. So there's definite reason to believe that. The other reason why I think it's not crazy is because as much as Vikings fans who, follow the draft and follow free agent signings and all these things and like to crunch the roster and everything and want to believe that the young guys are, the heir apparents, I think Brian Flores showed last year that he's not just going to play the high draft picks because they're high draft picks. He'll play them when they deserve their chance. He played Mekhi Blackman when he earned his chance. He even played Andrew Booth when he was showing something. And he even played Andrew Booth and some of those guys when the matchups dictated as such. But I don't think Brian Flores cares too much whether you were drafted in the first round, the third round, or drafted at all. I mean, just look at who his, green dot linebacker was at the end of the year. So I think that gives Duke Shelley all the shot in the world, and I also think he's got all the confidence in the world and all the gratitude in the world. I think he's just grateful to be back. I mean, you see him on social media, gassing up Vikings fans and thanking God for his chance to be back, and I think he's probably going to be a man on a mission because last season didn't go the way that I think he would have liked it to go after a pretty good showing for the Vikings in 2022. He signed with the Raiders in the summertime, or I guess free agent time in March. He didn't make it out of training camp. He signed with the Rams right before week 1. He only played about 11 games, didn't start any of them. So I think, and he only amounted 76 defensive snaps last season compared to his 397 the year before with the Vikings. So I think there's going to be a hunger in him, and I don't know, there's something too about, we've seen this, guys that fit in different spots, they don't fit in other spots. And maybe purple looks really good on Duke Shelley.
That's 100%.
Maybe that's so. I think it's super intriguing, super exciting, and yes, to answer your question, I do think he has a chance to really play.
Yeah, I think this. We'll talk about the competition aspect of it later, but I definitely think he has a chance to play. This cornerback room, we all kind of thought going in, hey, this is kind of a problem. And when the Vikings traded up into the first round, before the draft, I think there was some speculation that, okay, if they don't use that pick to move up and get one of the top 3 QBs, maybe that's going to turn into a defensive back. Maybe that's another corner that gets drafted, and they decided not to. They have decided to go this kind of, let's sign, Shaq Griffin, let's sign Duke Shelley, and let's just have these guys fight in training camp, and let's see who we're going to go with. And I've went on the record multiple times to say that when it comes to defensive backs, there's 2 types that I enjoy. I either be 6'3" and have arms that hang down to your knees, or be 5'9", 5'10" on your tippy toes and just have that pit bull nasty mentality. I'm gonna get in your chest, and every snap that you line up against me is going to be the fight of your life because I'm not going to let this opportunity pass me by. And that's exactly what Duke Shelley is. Don't get me wrong, I think that we do this thing. Well, not we specifically. I think we as fans, not Jordan and Will alone. I think fans do this thing where it's like, oh, the defense was bad, but this guy was good on a bad defense, so if he's on a good defense, he'll be good. It's not always the case. Sometimes the reason the defense was bad was because Duke Shelley was one of your starting corners. So, I'm not going to guarantee today that Duke Shelley is a superstar in reality, but having fun and letting myself talk nonsense in July. Yeah, man. I mean, Duke Shelley, it feels like the Cardinals are going to be like Duke Shelley on the outside, which is crazy because he's so little. But Duke Shelley is one of your outside guys. Blackman, Booth, and Griffin can fight. And, like that scene from Batman where, like, Joko snaps the pool cue over his knee and throws it in between the three guys. He's just like, only one of you gets a job. And it's like, let them fight it out. Only one of them gets to start. And then you have Byron Murphy be your, inside nickel guy. I think it's just a beautiful secondary, man. I think it has the potential. Week 8, week 9, we look back and the Vikings have like done better than maybe we expected, and they're leaning on their defense a lot more. And the talk of the league is, how are they doing this with, these guys? Like, it's like a ragtag group of misfits, but I'm starting to like this ragtag group. Like, before this signing, I was still kind of like, I don't know. That's still concerning. The pass rush is going to have to be really good. This just takes that secondary, it bumps it up a little bit, and gives me a little bit more confidence in it. So I'm super amped about it.
Well, it is amazing what happens when you add one good ingredient, right? It changes the entire complexion of things because it shifts the pecking order and it gives people different opportunities. It potentially allows Byron Murphy to play in the slot, which removes the need to put somebody else in the slot, which could be a disaster. And so I think let's dive into this cornerback battle here as we enter camp. And I know it's the position group you wanted to for sure highlight tonight. So how do you see maybe a pecking order and sort of the way the battle is setting up as we enter late July camp, starting preseason games a few weeks away?
Yeah, honestly, right now, I think that the Vikings mentality is we need two guys that can play outside in the nickel. Because Byron Murphy needs to be inside. That's what he did in Arizona. He was good at it. He needs to be a nickel guy. And that's not a slight on Byron Murphy. It's just, that's how it is, man. I mean, like, that's a real thing in the NFL nowadays. It's a passing league. You need a good nickel. And so I think Byron, they want two guys to step up and really show out. And so I think that's why they have brought in guys like Shaq Griffin and Duke Shelley, because it's like, look, these guys have experience. They're veterans. They're going to play with intelligence that maybe some of the younger guys won't. So we are going to sign those two and challenge Mekhi Blackman and Andrew Booth. What can you do? What are you going to take that leap? Are you going to prove to us that you deserve to be the guys full time on the outside? And I honestly don't think Booth is cut out for it. He had some flashes of maybe something there, but not what everyone thought he was going to be coming out of Clemson. So in my brain, if I had to, predict the depth chart today, it would be probably Blackman and Shelley on the outside with Murphy Jr. in the slot. And then, obviously those, 8 other positions on the field, so I'm not going to go into all of them, and we'll do that over the course of the next few weeks, and we'll talk about camp battles. But, I think it's important that Shelley and Griffin, the veterans, we now kind of have the veterans versus, like, the homegrown talent. It's important that they, like, the veterans realize, like, you're not guaranteed a job either. No one here is guaranteed a job. It's not like, I think the only guy who you can book on, or you can bet on starting week 1 is Byron Murphy Jr. And that's just the way that the room is right now. So I think that the veterans need to understand that the Vikings would probably like to pat themselves on the back and say, oh yeah, we were right about Mekhi Blackman. Look, he's balling out now, and he's one of the top 10 in the league, blah, blah, blah. So they're going to have to bring it every day. And then for the homegrown guys, that's an insult. You've been insulted by the front office because they're saying we don't trust you. And you need to earn that trust from the coaching staff and the front office and own your, spot and own your snaps. and then we'll see what goes on. So I'm very, very excited about this. I will give you a chance to touch on the Cardinals before we jump in. I know we're going to talk about pass rush, but I don't even have a prompt for you about the pass rush. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, give me your stouting D line or anything like that. And again, I want you to talk about the Cardinals, but are you as excited as I am about the pass rush too? This defense is shaping. Like it's getting me amped. Like,
I am needing to check myself with how excited I am about the defense.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't fully know what this team is going to be. Because, like football, it's such a team game that we saw this last year. No matter how good the defense was, by about week 14 or 15, the wheels just kind of came off the cart. The offense couldn't move the ball anymore, and if they did, they were turning it over, and the defense just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
So no matter how good this defense is, if the offense can't keep pace a little bit, kind of Timberwolves style, like if the offense can at least be middle of the pack, if the defense is, top 5 or whatever, that at least gives you a chance. So lots of obviously question marks when it comes to the offense with the quarterback situation, but yeah, I'm like I said, almost too excited. I think very quickly on the cornerbacks, I think I have the same sort of mindset that you do when it comes to potential depth chart and starters and all these things. I'm really curious to see what Shaq Griffin comes with in training camp. They seem to really like him. They also seem to really appreciate his leadership. Now, you don't have to be a starter to be a leader. So I think they know he's, mature enough, a veteran enough to still be able to lead, even if he's, second team guy or whatever. But I think maybe what I will say just in general about the defense, and then I'll talk a little bit more specifically about the pass rush group. I like that they seem to have a lot of viable options. It's felt like in the past, especially in the defensive secondary, you're sort of just hoping and praying that Harrison Smith stays healthy, because if he doesn't, everything's going to fall apart. And this year, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think there's a chance Harrison Smith has reduced snaps, and I think you can trust Josh Metellus and Cam Bynum to anchor the back end, and I think you can trust the cornerbacks enough to really bring the heavy pressure that Flores liked to do last year. And I think this cornerback room, although it's not chock full of Pro Bowlers, I think it's chock full of guys who are talented, have something to prove, and there's a lot of them. And so I think kind of those combinations together are a really positive thing.
Yeah.
When it comes to the pass rush,
here we go.
I'll keep this brief because I could talk a lot about this. I think my first and maybe most important overall takeaway from this group is that the 3 guys that I think we all know we're talking about, Turner, Van Ginkel, and Grenard, I think those 3 guys are going to play a variety of different positions, a variety of different formations. They could all be on the field at the same time.
Dangerous.
And I don't think that's going to be weird. I think that'll be normal. And I think I have more optimism about this group than I did with any of the groups the last couple of years, even though Danielle Hunter was better than any of these single guys. There's now a depth that they have that they never had when Hunter was here. I guess I can't say never, because Evers and Griffin was really good at the beginning of Hunter's tenure. But at the end there, it was sort of Hunter and scrap, because even when Zadarius Smith was here, he was awesome for about half the year, and then he tailed off because he was hurt.
Yeah.
And he was old. We had hope with Marcus Davenport, but he never really saw the field. When he did, he was great, but he was only on the field for about a game and a half, it felt like. So that's what I love about this group, is it's three guys that I think could all be starters. They might not all technically start, but I don't really care because I think all of them are going to see significant snaps. They're going to be able to give each other breaks because there's three guys who can all get the quarterback. And in obvious passing situations, 3rd and 8, put them all on the field. Like that's what Kwesi liked to do, or not Kwesi. Flores liked to do last year with a group that wasn't as prolific at rushing the passer. So I think that's what gets me excited about this group is the depth and just the interchangeability.
It's like, would you rather have one like 2005 Mustang, or would you rather have like 5 2019 Honda Civics? Like, I'll take the Civics. I'm at a point in my life where I'm not really in need of a Mustang, so I'll take the security and the consistency of the Civics, because if you have 5 2019 Honda Civics, you're not buying a car for like 50 years. So, like, I agree with you. The depth is so exciting, and you didn't even get into, like, Gabriel Murphy as, the big UDFA, how did he go undrafted? He's this year's Ivan Pace. The Vikings are going to do it again. My hand to God, if Gabriel Murphy ends up being as good as we all think Ivan Pace was last year, like he's a legitimate contributor, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah should be extended. Because he doesn't even need to draft people. And at that point, just stop trading all the picks. Like, because that would be like back-to-back years where it's just like, what a steal. But, Andre Carter II going into year 2. That was always the plan with him, right? He was a UDFA out of Almy. He's got length. He was good at Almy, but he comes in. He's got that military body, so he has to transform. He has to go from military into NFL and be a football player. And so is he going to do anything? You've got guys like Bo Richter. There's like all these guys. And those are the guys who, like, who cares if they're even good? They might not be. If the 3 guys that you brought up stay healthy, you are talking about having 3 really good pass rushers on the field, at minimum 2 of them on the field at all times. And that should really excite everybody. I think Dallas Turner has potential to be better than Danielle Hunter was, because Danielle Hunter, as good as he was, we all, I think, appreciated him maybe a little too much. I think that's natural for fans to be like, yeah, Danielle Hunter's probably like top 3 in his position or something like that, or he's the best in the league. Whereas national media-wise, he was never in that like top discussion. He was never with the Bosas. He was never with the I don't know. The Bosas are the only ones I can think of right now. But, he was never up in that discussion. Dallas Turner could be. Like, he really could be in that discussion. And it could be like, are you telling me the Vikings have the best wide receiver and the best pass rusher and one of the best left tackles, and let's see what J.J. McCarthy can do? Like, there's a chance we just need him to be Brock Purdy, and then we're set, and we're golden. And so, I don't know. It's very exciting.
Think about that formula in comparison to Detroit. That's what they have. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's not as good as Justin Jefferson. He's really good, but he's not as good as Justin Jefferson. They've got Penei Sewell, who's awesome. Probably argue between him and Darrisaw. They have Aiden Hutchinson, who's awesome. I think maybe a little bit overrated, but awesome. And there you go. And then, they got Jared Goff, who's quite competent.
Yeah.
And they probably should have made the Super Bowl last year. So, like, that's a formula that I can get behind.
Yeah.
It's exciting. We didn't even talk about guys like Pat Jones, who he's not going to knock anybody's socks off. He's not going to, get any PFF tweets for having the highest graded game or whatever. But he is a serviceable backup, and depending on how camp goes, I mean, guys like him might not make the cut. So it's exciting. Versatility, something that Flores really preaches on this team and this defense. That's why he loves guys like Van Ginkel and Josh Metellus, because they can play like 4 different positions.
Yeah.
That's going to be huge. Can Pat Jones really make a name for himself continually on special teams? Things like that are going to earn these guys those roster spots. So
Yeah.
it's good problems to have. I think it's probably a better problem to have than we've seen in the last few years.
You have prompted my final thoughts. What I'm going to talk about. And what I'm going to talk about is really dumb, but stay with me. They need to when Greenard, whatever, when Greenard, Van Ginkel, and Tauno are all on the field at the same time, the Vikings need to leak to the media that they have a really badass name for that package. It needs to be called like the kill package, or like the I don't know, like the. I'm trying to think of something that isn't.
Like the Golden State Warriors death lineup from 2015.
Yes, like the kill package, the death package, the Wacko sack package. I don't know what you want to call it. Name it something incredibly like catchy and marketable, so that way when the Vikings do have a primetime game and they get flexed into Sunday Night Football, I can't remember the schedule off the top of my head how many Sunday night games. What'd you say?
2 years from now, they got no primetime.
No, not at all.
They maybe have like one Monday night against the Bears. Or something.
But like, let's say this defense is as good as we're hoping that it is in July, and they get flexed into a Sunday night game. I can hear Collinsworth just like, they call this the kill package, and like I can just hear him getting excited about it. Everyone in the nation is getting annoyed by it. They're like, oh, this is stupid. That's a dumb name for a pass rush. And Vikings fans are just at home screaming. That's what I want. That's my final thoughts. That's my proposition to the Vikings PR team. Work on it. Find a cool name. Immediately leak it to the media. I want to hear it every Sunday. I want it. Kwesi used to work on the stock market. Adam Thielen almost sold dental equipment. And when these three guys are on the field together, the Vikings call it something incredibly cool. Like, I don't know. Call it like Optimus Prime, Super America, Kill. Kill is in my head because like they are killers. They are so good at getting to the quarterback. But yeah, man, that's my final thoughts. Make sure you shop unified. Follow the show at LTB Vikings. Follow this guy at Will Badlose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot. I'm getting excited. I'm telling you. This defense has me flustered. But and Duke Shelley's back. I mean, like, come on. How can you not? Go follow Duke Shelley at whatever Duke Shelley's Twitter handle is. But no, at Will Badlose, and check out the Badloser blog. You can tell that I'm off because my muscle memory of saying follow Will at Will Badlose is gone. So I'm gonna have to build that back up. But it's okay. We're gonna get this is training camp for us too, because we refuse to have the same, discussions every week, every day of the week, because there's no fun in that for us. And why would we get on here and have a Kirk Cousins discussion 3 months after he left, like other shows tend to do? We're not here to do that. We're just here to talk about the Vikings and have a good time. So, Will, I'll pass it off to you. This was a fun one. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about camp battles. Spoiler, probably Kiko. That has to be a conversation at some point, because there's not a good one on the team right now. At least I don't think so. So that'll be fun to talk about. Will, I'll let you take us home.
I think we can take your death package thing and make it even simpler for the Vikings PR team. Just take the Purple People Eaters mantra and just tweak it. Just use that. Use that as your template. And then edit it a little bit so you're not copyright infringing yourself. And then, kind of rebrand yourself for 2024. I like that approach. So my final thoughts, though, are very simple. Vikings have a preseason game in 18 days.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. It's wild. It's the only home game, August 10th at US Bank Stadium against the Raiders, and then after that I got a couple road games. But it's wild. Real football is happening soon, like Jordan said. I mean, real football, the Hall of Fame game.
9 days.
Sooner than that.
9 days from today. So 8 days
Insanity.
from when this posts. That's like a week.
August will be here sooner than we know it. And They're going to start smelling the leaves, and it's going to start smelling like football season again. That's all we got. We'll be back next week. Like Jordan said, we got lots of roster training camp stuff to dig into. Dustin Baker, fan and favorite of the show, he will be back with us to dissect many of those things. Skol, y'all.